And welcome, everyone, to Lorcanarama Episode 3. My name is Kelsey Hall. I am your host for tonight, and I'd like to welcome you. This is the second episode. I think I said Episode 3. We did have a pilot episode, and that was just trying to overcome technical difficulties. Last week, if you saw our episode, we had Stephen Pepper on, and we went through a little bit of purple cards from the new set. Amethyst cards. Talked about that. And tonight I have another special guest for you. Joining me this evening is Russell Parry. Russell Parry is a judge for PPG, works at the DLCs. That's where I met him. And Russell, welcome to Lorcanarama.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kelsey. I appreciate you reaching out to me.
No worries. I am happy to have you on. And for those of you who are tuning in, Russell is going to be audio only with us tonight. So, I know you can't take your eyes off my handsome face. There'll be nobody else to look at. I'm sorry. Just look to the side of the screen if you have to tonight. Russell was the lead appeals judge, I believe, at the North American Championship in Anaheim back in January. And I met Russell as a judge who, it was one of 3 events. I don't know which one it was yet because they're all a blur for me. It's either Toronto, Vegas, or Seattle. Those are the only ones I've been to besides Anaheim. So, he's helped me on the floor a couple times. Then I kind of migrated to the scorekeeper table, and I didn't get to see him very much after that. So, but anyways, so Russell, I have a question for you, and this is the number one question I am asked when people find out that I work the DLCs. How do you become a judge for Disney Lorcana?
Well, to get involved with Lorcana judging, it's not too hard. You just have to make sure you know your stuff. I'd highly recommend reading up on the comprehensive rules documents, the play correction guidelines, and the tournament rules documents. Those are probably the 3 most important things to familiarize yourself with. That way, if you can handle the majority of calls that come up during an event. When I was actually reached out, Albert, the original head judge for the first couple DLCs, reached out to me personally and asked. He asked if I was interested in staffing the DLC events. Mm-hmm. And I've been judging for many games for many years. I've played card games the better half of my entire life, so I'm pretty well versed in rules documentation and stuff. But yeah, he reached out to me and gave me an invite to hop on as judge staff, and I've been loving the task ever since. I didn't get a chance to participate in Toronto, but I've been to pretty much every other DLC and the North American Championships as judge staff.
Cool. I know Toronto came along. We were talking prior to the podcast starting. I was a player in Atlanta, skipped out on Dallas, skipped out on Chicago. And honestly, I wanted to be a judge because the competitive part of it, while I can handle it and I'm fine, I'm just past that part of my life, right? And so, but I love the community and I wanted to interact with the community, especially the DLCs. And while my friends go and play, let them deal with all that stress. So, but Toronto came up, and honestly, I bid on Toronto because I wanted to go to Toronto. And so, but I had a blast at the DLC there. I love Toronto, and then I followed up with Vegas and Seattle, and then got selected to do Anaheim, which was kind of cool. One thing that people may not know is the process at this point for applying for a judge. Actually, if you don't know where to go and look, it's hard to find in a way. And I know the way I became a staff member was when PPG puts the events up at the bottom of their page, there's like, do you want to be a staff member? And I just clicked on that link and followed it and answered the questions. It's like filling out a job application. And that was how I kind of made it through. So So what's your
Yeah,
favorite?
the same for me. Yeah, outside of Atlanta, where I was approached directly. Yeah, I also had to apply through PPG's website. So if you guys are interested in becoming a Lorcana judge and judging local events, judging DLCs and so on, like I said, familiarize yourself with those documents and keep an eye out on PPG's webpage. Because they'll post those events periodically, and you can simply just apply for whatever role you're interested in. And then if you hear back, you hear back. If not, better luck next time.
I'm glad you mentioned locals because that's really where it starts, right? It's like if you're not comfortable enough to maybe judge your locals or something within your own area, you might not want to try the DLCs, So
I definitely agree.
yeah,
If you're familiar with the rules and you think you're competent enough to serve as a judge for the game, I highly recommend starting with local events first.
yep, right.
Set championships, 1-2K, personal events that are firing all over the country. Definitely familiarize yourself with how to hold yourself as a judge through these local events first.
Yeah, and that was the next point I was going to make is and thank you for doing that. Those soft skills are just as important as understanding the rules, maybe more important, because you could get a rule wrong and that's easy to correct. But if you don't handle a situation correctly or you handle a person, in the wrong way, that's damage that's hard to repair, and so.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah, so work on those soft skills.
Yeah, definitely. The soft skills, like you said, are highly valuable as a judge, when you're serving as a judge, because it's knowing the rules and mechanics and policies of the game is only part of the process of being a judge. Having soft skills and being very customer facing is also very important. It's a very I'd say it's more so a customer service position than it is acting as a judge.
Yep.
Knowing how to approach the table, how to handle the other judges, how to interact with the players in a friendly and kind way. Because nobody likes to be told that they're wrong on their ruling, or players obviously, if a player calls a judge thinking that they're correct in their stance and they end up being incorrect, you have to know how to relay that information in a friendly way, so that way they can continue playing and not be, upset or, on tilt, what some people like to say, for the rest of the game. They don't want to, you want to leave the table with both players still being happy and being a friendly environment.
Right. Your interaction can mess up somebody emotionally for the rest of the tournament. They'll just think back, I can't believe he said that to me or whatever, and that's why you have to be on your P's and Q's. It's not about you being right or wrong. It's about the rules being applied correctly, and hopefully as a judge, you are right, and it's not about the player being right or wrong. It's just to make sure that they play within the guidelines that have been provided for us. So, I have a,
and
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, one thing I like to do personally, and when a player asks me a rulings question, is instead of just giving them a yes or a no, I like to explain to them how the mechanics of the interaction work. That way, going forward, they learn something they didn't know previously, and they understand why it works that way.
Hey, that's a good segue because I have for everybody a few rules and a few mechanics, mainly highlighted from this new set, Arcasia's Island, things that have come up in my locals, and just wanted to throw them out there for everybody. And by this point, I think most folks have these things answered, but you never know. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw up a few card pairs and interactions to take place, and let Russell kind of go over them and explain them, the interactions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to swap this out, everybody to see. Here we go. our first interaction, and I'm going to read this off for those who don't have video. So the first interaction is with the new Gantu. The Gantu, who is a 4-cost uninkable, 2/4, quest for 1. The main part about him is when you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn. And he has a second ability. Each player plays two more ink, two ink more to play actions or items. And it says this doesn't apply to singing songs. Okay, so with this Gantu in mind, I have pulled up the Robin Hood from set 5, the 4-cost uninkable 1/4 that quests for 2, who has an ability that says whenever this character quests, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an action card with cost 6 or less and play it for free. Put the rest in your discard. So, Russell, let's start with that first ability for Gantu. When you play this character, characters can't exert to sing songs until the start of your next turn. Is Robin Hood's ability singing a song?
It is not. No, it simply plays the song for free.
Okay.
Now, when you play the song, you're able to, well, you're not able to sing it because of Gantu, but under normal circumstances, when you play a song for free or an action for free, if it's a song, you are also able to sing it if you choose to. But obviously with Gantu out, he's a big bully out there and says, no singing. I don't like music.
Nice. And so his second ability, and let's look at this with Robin Hood as well too. Each player pays 2 more to play actions or items. So Robin Hood says, I play it for free. Am I paying 2 or is it for free?
So in many other games, the way those effects interact with each other is that you would have to pay an additional 2. However, in Lorcana, when a card instructs you to play a card for free, you're actually replacing all instances of paying any amount of ink for that card for 0. So that includes any modifiers added to it. So if you were to play a song for free with Gantu in play, that additional 2 ink that you would normally have to pay, instead you just pay 0, because that's what for free means in the technical definitions.
Free means free.
Free is free.
It's one of the few places in this world where free actually means what it means.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Next interaction here that we have. So this one's my favorite one. As soon as I saw Pongo, I automatically gravitated to this. I think I even asked this question on our judges Discord channel. So Pongo is a 6-cost uninkable, quest for 2, 5/5. He's dual link, Amber, Sapphire. He has an ability, Found You, you little rascal. It says, at the start of your turn, look at the cards in your inkwell. You may play a puppy character from there for free. That sounds easy enough, right? Well, let's bring Lilo into the mix. So Lilo, escape artist, and she is 1/2, quest for 2, 2-cost inkable. She has no place I'd rather be. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may play her, and she enters play exerted. So, first of all, at the start of my turn, both of these cards will go into the bag, correct? And I get to choose which order I want to resolve them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the question that came up and that I've seen before is, if I decide to resolve Lilo first and I exert my 2 ink, and then I use Pongo's ability and I look at the cards in my inkwell, and lo and behold, one of those cards I exerted was a puppy character, so I get to play it for free. Do I need to replace that spent ink that I used for Lilo, or did I just kind of because I knew that that was a puppy, or I got lucky, I just got lucky and I don't have to have 2 exerted ink for playing Lilo?
So with this interaction, that was a very contentious question when it first came out, because people weren't sure how you're able to handle your ink well. If the card that, if you did play a puppy from one of the spent ink or the exerted ink you used to play Lilo, would you then have to re-exert another ink to fulfill the ink spent on Lilo? It caused quite a bit of confusion locally and even online on Facebook and on Discord and Twitter. So the way this interaction works, if you want me to break it down,
Yeah, go for it.
essentially, so at the start of your turn, both abilities trigger and are added to the bag, and you can choose the order on how you want to resolve them. That's pretty common. Most people are pretty familiar with how to handle multiple triggers. So let's say you chose to activate, or you chose to resolve Lilo's ability first. You choose 2 of your ink, and you exert them, and you play Lilo exerted from your discard pile. Then you go to resolve Pongo's ability. Pongo then allows you to look at your inkwell. Obviously, you have to keep the 2 cards that you exerted to pay Lilo's cost. You have to keep those cards exerted as you're looking at your inkwell. So if you want to set aside the 2 cards you use to pay Lilo's cost, and then look at the other pile, and then and then pick up the 2 you paid, that's up to you. But you have to make sure that they are separated and they are distinct from the rest of the inkwell, so that way we can keep track of what ink was paid. Anyway, once you do that, and you look at your, you look at your inkwell, you can choose a puppy from among them and play it for free. If one of the 2 cards you used to pay Lilo's cost happens to be a puppy, you don't need to then re-exert another ink. You've already paid Lilo's cost. So if you happen to play a puppy for free and that puppy was one of the ink that you used to pay for Lilo, cool, congratulations, you lucked out. You got a free puppy, and you still have the rest of your ink available. There's no need to exert an additional ink. And to add to this, this actually brought up a very complex question in our judging chat groups. How are you able to manage and organize your inkwell, either before or after Pongo? Can we keep track of where the puppies are? Can we, set puppies to one side face down and have the rest of the ink in a separate pile? And we got clarification from the official rules manager of the game. And he said, yeah, as long as everything remains face down and you don't look at them to remind yourself, you're free to organize your inkwell however you like. So you could put all of your puppies face down in one pile and the rest of your non-puppies in another pile. And that way you'll know where your puppies are if you wanted to pay a cost such as Lilo. You could just exert your puppies and then grab one of them out of your inkwell if you like. It's a very fun interaction, though, and I've actually seen a lot of people do it locally, and it's always fun to see someone actually pull this combo off and still have the rest of their inkwell available to them.
So you brought up the point about you can organize your inkwell however you see fit. So how does that reconcile with the no note taking? You knew that question was coming, right?
yeah, that was actually the biggest contention for myself, because I was like, well, wouldn't that be considered taking notes because you know where things are? And according to the rules, note taking is any kind of outside assistance that is using that you're using to remind yourself of what is where, what needs to happen, etc. But according to the rules manager, and I agree with his stance as well, that if you're choosing to manage your inkwell while everything is still face down, the only thing that is helping you remember is your own memory. If you forget, that's on you. There's no outside assistance outside of your normal, the normal human memory. So if you wanted to organize your inkwell, such as like I brought up earlier, have your puppies in one side and your other cards on the other side, that's up to you to remember which pile is which. If you forget which pile is which, you cannot check. So it as long as it's only utilizing the human mind to remember what is where, that's totally okay, because that's no different than recalling cards that your opponent has in their hand. That if you played Diablo and looked at your opponent's hand, you can still recall what cards were in their hand using your memory, but you can't obviously write down what they had.
A fun little card, fun little interaction. So my neighbor plays puppies, and and I showed him Lilo, and he wants to try and put Lilo in his deck now. So okay, let's get
sorry
to
if that was a little too technical, but
no.
I got really big in the discussion about it, so I wanted to make sure we got it right.
No, hey, you're here to be technical. That's the way this works, right? So we'll have fun and talk about some other things, but we're on the technical part right now. So you be as technical as you need to be. Okay, let's go to the next one here. So the next interaction that we have is really more, I just chose these two cards, and these two cards aren't really specific to the interaction per se. It's just that they're representative of a rule, and that's the new Vanish rule, or the new Vanish ability, we'll call it that, that came out with the new set. So I have Giant Cobra, who is a 3-cost inkable 4/4 Giant Cobra Ghostly Serpent. He has the Vanish ability that says, when an opponent chooses this character for an action, banish them. So I'm not going to read the rest of Giant Cobra's card, because really what we want to focus on is the Vanish ability. So I'm also showing the card Mother Knows Best, because most folks have seen this card and they're familiar with it by now. It is an action card that can be played, and what I would, if I target my opponent's Giant Cobra with Mother Knows Best, can you explain to us how that will be resolved, and what actually happens with that? And for those listening, real quick, for those who are listening and don't know, Mother Knows Best is an action card that says return chosen character to their player's hand. Okay, go ahead, Russell.
Yeah, so this Vanish is a really cool keyword ability. I've been waiting for something like this to happen in Lorcana for a while now, because it's a very common keyword in other games. It's shared across different games, but it interacts differently in Lorcana than you might think. So the way Vanish works is when that character is chosen by an action card, it is banished. But one thing you have to remember is that Vanish is a triggered ability. It triggers whenever that card is chosen by an action. But it must wait for that action to fully resolve before the trigger, or before the marble can be pulled out of the bag, essentially. So once it's chosen by an action's ability, you still must first fully resolve the ability on that action card before Vanish is able to resolve and banish the character. So in the example you have here with Mother Knows Best, it says return chosen character to their player's hand. So let's say I have Giant Cobra in play, and you decide to play Mother Knows Best. You choose Giant Cobra for the effect. Giant Cobra's triggered ability goes into the bag. Then you finish resolving Mother Knows Best, returning Giant Cobra to my hand. At that point, I would go to resolve Vanish, but because Giant Cobra is no longer in play, nothing happens. It resolves without effect.
Yep.
So you can't banish a card from a player's hand. So the card simply returns back to my hand, and I keep it. Then I can replay it on my next turn, or ink it, or do whatever I need. So the key points to remember is that Vanish triggers, goes into the bag, but you just remember you have to fully resolve the ability of the action first before Vanish gets to resolve.
So we had someone, I won't use the word argue, debate, that's a better word, debate that they could actually play Brawl on the Giant Cobra. And I had to explain to him, at least my understanding, is that, first of all, the normal rules of choosing who the targets of your cards are still apply before anything else. And Brawl says that the character has to cost 2 or less, or excuse me, has to have power 2 or less. So I can't actually choose the Giant Cobra in order for the Vanish ability to take effect. Is that correct?
That's 100% correct. Yeah, the character must still be a legal choice for the card in order to choose it. So in the case for Brawl, like you said, Brawl can only choose characters with 2 or less strength. And because Giant Cobra has more than 2 strength, he's not a legal choice for the card, so you can't even choose him with the ability.
I got to work on my terminology. I got to lose that word target and replace it with the word choice that you just used.
Yeah, that was a hard learning curve for me getting into to judging with Lorcana. I try to use as much correct terminology as possible, just not to confuse people, coming in from other games.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big one, especially with Vanish. Okay, let's go to the next one. I got two more. So my next to the last one. So this is one of my favorite cards so far in Arcasia Island Limited. It is the new Mother Gothel. Everybody thought I was going to say Scrooge McDuck. You're wrong. It's the Mother Gothel. Mother Gothel is a 3-cost inkable 1/4. She's a dual link ruby amethyst. Her ability says, now you've upset me. Whenever one of your characters challenges, you may move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So in my scenario here, I have Mother Gothel who has 1 damage counter on her, and my opponent has an exerted Scrooge McDuck who has 3 damage counters on him. And by the way, he is a 4/4. So if we can put another damage counter on him, he's gone, right? So I take Mother Gothel and I challenge Scrooge McDuck. Will Scrooge get a chance to take Mother Gothel out in this challenge if I decide to move the counter from Mother Gothel onto Scrooge McDuck?
So Mother Gothel is an amazing card. I love her ability, and I love how it interacts with a lot of different cards. My favorite part is that it doesn't even have to be her challenging. Correct. It can be any of your characters, which is great. But in the example you provided here, the way Mother Gothel works, it says whenever one of your characters challenges, that's the trigger condition. So if you challenge, let's say in this example, you're challenging with Mother Gothel, her ability triggers the moment she declares the challenge. This is before the characters have assigned damage or damage has been calculated at all. This is the initial moment as soon as you declare the challenge. At that point, once her ability is triggered and is added to the bag, you resolve it before damage has been calculated or applied. So you're actually able to move a damage counter from her or from another character onto Scrooge McDuck before any damage from the challenge has been calculated or applied. So in the situation you show here, between Mother Gothel with 1 damage counter and Scrooge McDuck with 3 damage counters, you would declare the challenge against Scrooge McDuck. Mother Gothel's ability would trigger. You would resolve it, moving the damage counter from her onto Scrooge McDuck. Once her ability is finished resolving, a game state check occurs, which is essentially a automated process that occurs after every step in the game or after every ability or action has completed. And it checks for a couple things. It checks for win and win-loss conditions. If you have 20 lore, or if your opponent loses the game, it checks for those. It also checks for damage on characters. If their damage is equal to or greater than their willpower, the game state check sees that and it marks them for banishment to be sent to the discard pile. So in this case, you would move the damage counter to Scrooge McDuck. The game state check occurs. It sees that Scrooge McDuck has damage on him equal to or greater than his willpower, and it banishes him. In this case, since he's banished before any damage calculation has been completed from the challenge, Mother Gothel doesn't receive any damage back because Scrooge McDuck is banished by the time that damage step would occur. So no damage is done back to Mother Gothel, and Scrooge McDuck is banished before the challenge damage steps even begin to occur.
So, and let me ask this question. And let's say I have another character with 1 damage counter, and I have Mother Gothel on the board, and I challenge Scrooge McDuck with the other character, and I move the counter off of the other character onto Scrooge McDuck. Which character actually banished Scrooge McDuck? Is it Mother Gothel who banishes it because it's her ability, or is it the character that the counter moved off of? Because that's important for some cards, you know, because if they get rewards for banishing in a challenge.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So the ability is what's moving the damage. Or Mother Gothel's ability is what's moving the damage.
Okay.
So if you challenged with another character and Mother Gothel's ability is the one that places the final damage counter on the opposing character, technically it would be Mother Gothel that would be banishing that character because it's coming from her ability.
Yeah, I think of that with now they're never going to be in the same deck, okay? Because the new Mushu that's out, he's a ruby steel card. So these two, because they're dual links, unless they have a new format or change the rules, will never be in the same deck together. But I just want to use this because regardless of whether the cards can exist together in the same deck, it's just a matter of time before another representative ability like those come along that will be in the same deck. And that's the case in, like, is Mother Gothel considered to be, I guess, if she does the challenging and you move a counter from somewhere else onto Scrooge, if she were in the same deck with Mushu, would she get the 2 lore for banishing something in a challenge?
So you're saying if Mother Gothel is the one doing the challenging, or if another character you control is
Mother Gothel. Mother Gothel's doing the challenging, and she moves.
Oh,
yeah, she moves the counter from another character on the Scrooge McDuck. If again, I'm waiting for that world where all colors can be in a deck in some big format in Lorcana, right? So, but Mushu's ability says whenever a character banishes another character in a challenge, one of your characters banishes a character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. So, that's just what I was looking at and was like, oh, she is in a challenge, so she would take him out, right? If I might be getting ahead of myself in my next interaction.
Well, I mean, it's actually already possible now. I mean, obviously not in a constructed deck for like normal play, but if you're playing like draft or sealed,
where
you just
there
have
you go.
booster packs open, there's no color restrictions on those cards. So you could have an instance where you have Mother Gothel and Mushu in play at the same time. When it comes to her ability and Mushu, if you challenge with Mother Gothel and you banish the other character through her ability, you will get lore from Mushu because it's in her challenge. He says if that character banishes another character in that challenge, right?
Yep. In fact, let me just go on to my last interaction. I got ahead of myself here. It is Mushu. How about that? So we were talking about him. There we go. It's almost like we knew it was coming up, right? He is a 5-cost inkable 4/4 Mushu, Majestic Dragon. He is a dual link ruby steel card. Intimidating and awe-inspiring. Whenever one of your characters challenges, they gain resist 2 during that challenge. The part of his card that I really want to focus on is that second ability. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge, gain 2 lore. So the question that came up in our locals was specifically dealing with the Mulan from set 4 that basically says during your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. So let's say that Mulan gets shifted in and does 5 damage and takes out 3 characters during her challenge. Does she gain 6 lore if Mushu is on the field?
So Mulan, she'll deal the damage to the character she's challenging as well as 2 other characters she's not challenging, right?
Correct.
So Mushu's ability only applies to characters that are in the challenge. Therefore, ergo, the character that she is challenging against.
Mm-hmm.
So if the other 2 characters that are not in the challenge are banished, they're not being banished in the challenge. They're being banished during the challenge, but they're not directly involved in the challenge between Mulan and whatever character she chose to challenge. So they don't meet the requirements for Mushu's ability.
Okay, that's a strange
wording. They weren't
wording.
in that challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so I think the way some folks are reading it is whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge. And I think they're reading it as, wow, your character that's doing the banishing is in a challenge, regardless of who or whatever it is. So every character they banish while they're in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. So, okay. So,
I can definitely see the confusion there. Yeah. So whenever a card references banishing another character in a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
like specifically using the word in a challenge, it has to be it's only involving the character that's challenging and the character that's being challenged. Now, if the ability said if this character banishes another character during a challenge,
Okay.
then it'll apply to any character, because it's as long as that character is banished during the process of challenging, then it would work. But because it says in a challenge, it's only applying to the character that is directly involved
Okay.
or thus being challenged by your character.
That's good to know. That word in, which is 2 letters, just became a lot bigger.
Oh yeah, it's a big 2-letter word.
Yeah, there we go. Well, thank you for that clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. I want to go look at something else real quick, and that's from the new comprehensive rules document. So, for those of you who don't know, Ravensburger on their website does have the comprehensive rules document for the game, and they did update those, I think, towards the end of February, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they did that in anticipation of some of the things coming out with the new set. They added the vanish keyword. They did a couple other things in there. But they updated a section in there that I wanted to take a look at real quick. So I'm going to pull that up on my screen here for folks who are joining us online here. So in section 5, which for those of you who are not familiar with this document, section 5.1 deals with conditions of a card. You got ready, exerted, damaged, undamaged. Those explanations already existed. In sections 5.1.5 through 7, they added clarification on 3 different things. And so it's under. A card that has one or more cards on top of it is considered to be under the top card. And then they've got on top, and then they've got in a stack. And yes, Lorcana is using that evil word. But not like the way you think. So I was going to ask Russell if he could just talk about those clarifications real quick and what they mean for the game and why they're important, that this needs to be spelled out right now. Fire away, Russell.
Sure, yeah. So I'm very, very happy they added these to the comprehensive rules, because for us judges, we've known the distinction of essentially what's under and on top of a shifted stack, for a while now. But I'm glad that it's finally spelled out in the comprehensive rules. So as far as I know, this only applies to a shifted character. And the cards underneath of it or on top of it. As far as I know, there's no other way to have cards in a stack, at least in terms of Lorcana definitions. So when a card is under something, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's one card that is underneath of another card. As long as there is a card, or as long as there is at least one or more cards on top of the card we're referencing, that card is underneath those other cards. And likewise, on top means if there's a card with cards underneath it, the card that is on top is the on top card, if we're going by the definitions. And then in a stack, let me see here. It says when a card is placed on top of one or more other cards in play, it and all cards under it are considered to be a stack. These cards are considered to be in stack only while in play. If the top card in a stack leaves play, all cards in the stack move to the same zone as the top card. And then these cards are no longer to be considered in a stack. So it's like, if I have a shifted genie in play with another genie underneath it, and you banish my genie, both cards go to the discard pile. Or if you were to use Let It Go on my shifted genie, both cards go to my inkwell. That's what it means when it says both go to the same zone. Or like the card we referenced earlier, Mother Knows Best. If you were to return my shifted card, my shifted character back to my hand, both cards return to my hand, and then they are no longer considered in a stack. So that means they separate into their respective cards.
I think that there's the new hero card who came out. And I remember looking at him and I go, oh, this is why they clarified that. Because it's the one where he says, if this card is shifted on, you get to draw a card. And so when you shift something, of course, you put it on top, but his ability is still hanging around somewhere, even though you can't see his card anymore, right? So he's still part of that whole stack. That ability still in the bag. You know, he is still seen briefly for what, but yeah,
Exactly.
I know that. So right now it hasn't made it into the game, and I'm sure. First of all, the developers of this game are great. They're taking their time, which I think is pretty cool. With some things, they're not moving ahead too fast before putting themselves in a bind. But we do know that other games, the position of cards in your discard pile sometimes matters. The position of cards in your deck sometimes matters. So I think it's probably just a matter of time before Lorcana gets to that point, because mainly it's a design space that they wouldn't be doing due diligence if they didn't at least explore it somehow. They may never release the cards for it, but they, being good developers, they will probably explore it. And so I think that it's great. We take this for granted, I think, and I'm glad that this clarification is out, just like you said, because when that happens, we will already have the explanation in place, and we don't have to scramble to come up with it,
Yeah. I remember the days before the comprehensive rules documents came out, and we kind of just had to guesstimate based on our understanding of the basic rules on how things worked. And I mean, thankfully, we had Ravensburger staff within the official Lorcana Discord there to answer questions for us.
Yeah.
They were kind of a lifesaver back in the days, in the long ago, in the before times.
Yep. Well, cool. Thank you for clarifying that and answering that question. So, just a couple other things for you. Let's get to some more personal stuff. So, if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Hey, Deadpool, welcome to the chat. I just saw that we actually had chat. So, when it comes to judging, why do you personally? What do you like about judging, specifically Disney Lorcana? And I know you may like judging in some other things, but I just really focus on Lorcana because you kept coming back to the DLCs, right? So you like something, right? So what specifically do you like about working as a judge in the DLCs, or even judging locally?
The community. 100% the community. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, I've been a judge for dozens of card games over the last 25 years or so, and Lorcana by far has the most wholesome, most friendly community I've ever been a part of. That's what keeps me going, is the players, the community, the fun and friendly atmosphere, the friendships that are made along the way. I absolutely love the community, and that's what keeps me going.
I will echo that, and I will say it till I'm blue in my face, and to anybody who will listen. And if they're listening on this stream, then they're listening. They're going to hear this, right? So, this community is different. It is different than any other gaming community that I have been a part of, and I've been a part of a lot of them. I've owned an LGS. I've dealt with different gaming communities as a store owner, and I've also been in some as a player, both professionally and just casually. And, we spoke before we went online, and I told you that, it was the toxicity in other games that caused me to just kind of walk away from them. And I was talked into going to Atlanta by some friends to the DLC there. I went to support them. I just, I played, and I fell in love with the community in Atlanta and decided I wanted to give back, but I didn't want to play competitively, and I still wanted to go to the DLCs. So how do I do that? I was like, well, I always wanted to be a judge. So here we are. And so, I was able to be staff at 4 of the DLCs, or 3 DLCs, and 1 in the North American Championship. And I hope to continue to do it. I love the game. I want to preserve it. I have a young daughter, and I want this community to be as good or better in the future as it is now. And I want to do my part to contribute to that and to help preserve it. And that's why, as I was telling you, I do this stream, and I do, eventually, the YouTube videos will be up, and there'll be a YouTube channel. I want to highlight the people that make this great community. We all know the game, and we can see all of the competitive podcasts, and I love those podcasts, and I will hopefully highlight some of those guys and some of those ladies that do that. But what I really want to focus on are the people who make this such a wonderful game. The game is great, and the game will be great no matter what. But the people are what's going to help this game endure. And I have so enjoyed it. I go to the DLCs, man. I just love talking to people. And sometimes I remember I have a responsibility when I'm there to do other things, But I just love talking to people, and yeah, it's a great community.
That's honestly, I couldn't say it any better. Like that hits every mark on why I continue to be a part of the community. Like I started out as a hyper competitive player when the game first came out, and then once the comprehensive rules were released, I really just stuck my head into the rules and decided to play casually, just among friends and at locals and stuff. And I'd much rather be a judge and part of the staff running these events, because you get to see behind the scenes, you get to see, you get to interact with way more players and more people than you do as a player most of the time.
Yep.
And you're well regarded as a member of the community, and I absolutely love it. Like it's such a wholesome community.
Yeah, it's great. There are three people, and I'll do a video about this one day, that they really had an impact on me, kind of doing this stream and that. And I'll just go ahead and name drop them now. One of them is Dan Arnold from the Forbidden Mountain. I'll never forget something he said. We met in Atlanta. I was talking about, I really like this community, is what I told him. I said, I'd like to do a podcast, but I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to go there and do something bad, And Dan said something that has stuck with me for over a year, and it kept coming back to me over and over again, and it finally wore me down. And he said, what's worse than a bad podcast? I go, no, what? He goes, no podcast. and so I was like, point taken, sir. Point taken. And hey, Papa. And, the second was, and I put a post on this on one of the Lorcana Facebook pages. In Toronto, there was a guy dressed up like Jafar. And it was my first DLC, and I saw him, and I just talked to him, and I was like, why dress up, when you come here? And he goes, I have never cosplayed in my life. And I saw somebody do it in Chicago, and I was like, I want to do this. And I just wanted to check it out. And he was so excited to be able to do it. I got my picture with him, and I'll never forget his excitement, not to be there to compete and be competitive, but to be part of a community and to bring some people joy. And I was like, man, we need more people like that in the world, And the third name, I don't know his name, so I can't name drop him. But I put a post out there, and I'm like, folks, can you please tell me who this person is? Because I want to bring him on the podcast. So, it's Katie. Hey, Katie. And so, anyways, the third person I'll name drop is, and I met him in Toronto, is Kawa from Podcana. And every now and then you'll meet somebody in life that you just click personality wise, And I was so busy during that tournament, because I was like, I want to do a good job. It was my first one, right? I didn't want to be caught talking to players or anything like that if I wasn't doing my job and all that. But after things settled down, he kind of came back up to me after we had an initial conversation and we just chatted, and we just kind of clicked personality wise. And he kind of helped me on the technical part to actually get this thing up and running. Which was nice. Now, hopefully, I don't put him on the spot, but so that's the kind of community we have, though, right? And so, I give a shout out to those guys. I really appreciate them. I really appreciate the things that they do. Those guys who create the content, the judges, everybody. It's symbiotic. It's you can't take one piece of the puzzle out and the puzzle be complete. You can't take the players out. You can't take the staff out. You can't take the developers out. You can't take the content creators out. You can't take the players out. And you can't take your local game store people out. And you even can't take Judy out, who was working at the cantina in Anaheim, who complimented what a wonderful group of people we were at this big convention, because they just had a convention in there and everybody was rude to her at the last convention. But she said that our folks were pretty cool. So, and Judy, if you ever hear this podcast, there's your name drop. So, but anyways, so
getting to meet and talk to people, talking to players during the event, before and after, at dinner, and just getting to meet people that enjoy the game and the community for the same reasons I do is great. Like it's amazing. That's one of my favorite parts about staffing these events, is meeting people and getting to talk to players and interact with them. See what drives them to play, what they like about Disney, Lorcana, and coming to these events. Because as you know, so many people that go to DLCs, that's their first major event outside of their local set championships. They've never been to an event with 2,000 plus players in a room full of people, like-minded individuals, all there to compete and have fun and enjoy, the moment and really soak it all in, and I just can't get enough of it.
One of my favorite things about being a scorekeeper, I sit at the table with two other guys, and we're kind of like the information point. We're near the judges' table, so we get a lot of people coming up. Can you fix something in Melee for me? I'm looking for all kinds of questions, right? But one of my favorite things is you can, most of the time, on day one, like I love it, on the first day, you can tell the ones, this is their first event, because they are starstruck with everything. You can see it in their eyes. And I just love to see them, and I'll stand up and just start talking to them. And they're like, yeah, this is like my first time here. I don't really know where to go. And I'm like, it's okay. We got you. We're going to take care of you. You're going to have fun. You're going to have a blast. But you could just see it. And I love that. I love seeing that. It's pretty neat. I was like that in Atlanta, and I was like that in Toronto when I showed up as a staff member. So I know that feeling. It's pretty cool. I was like that in Anaheim when we walked in there and I saw that setup they had. I was like, holy moly, this is amazing.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, I got to walk in the day prior. I came in on Thursday to check in and everything.
I did too. Yep.
Yeah, they gave me a little tour of the main ballroom and stuff, and
yeah, it was.
I was blown away by how amazing everything was. Yep. Like this, I've been to major national level events in other games, and while those were fun in their own right, this was something completely different. Like this was something incredible, and I knew it just walking into the ballroom.
Yeah,
I was like, this is going to be an amazing weekend.
They set the bar high for Worlds. So.
Oh yeah, if the North American Championships was that good and was that well taken care of as far as a venue and event goes, I can't even imagine what Worlds is going to be like. I very much look forward to seeing what they're going to do with that event.
Yeah, that'd be great. Great. So before we part, I got something I like to do. This is my thing. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't warn you about this. Okay. So I'm going to tell you why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then I'm going to put it up there. Okay. So I'm going to have to share my screen with you. Okay. So give me 1 second. I'm going to swap out with you and show you something else. And then I'm going to show the folks something else too. So give me 1 second, everybody. So the people on the stream can see it. Now I got to set it up so that so that Russell can see it. There we go. Okay, Russell, can you see the card that I just showed on the screen? I've truncated the bottom of the card.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so when I was playing in my latest Pack Rush event, I, being the person that I am, left my glasses at home, and I cannot read a single thing on these cards when I don't have my glasses. Okay, so I thought I knew all the cards in Lorcana until I didn't have my glasses. I couldn't read some of the cards that I had not played with as much as others. So I was inspired to see how many other people are like this. So I'm gonna put you on the spot, Russ. Okay. So I've got a card up here. And for the folks who are listening in, it is a Dive Bomb. It is a 3-cost uninkable action card, Ruby action card. Russell, what does that card do? Do you know?
Dive Bomb. Now, this card, actually, yeah, I think I do, because I when the set came out, I remember playing this card in my sealed draft. I actually got a couple of them, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's, if I remember right, you banish one of your own characters with Rush. Not Reckless. You banish one of your characters with Reckless to banish one of your opponent's characters with that is the same strength or less.
Okay, let's see.
Or is it willpower?
All right, you ready for the reveal?
I think it might be willpower.
All right, here we go.
I'll go with strength. That's my final answer.
Okay, final answer. Here we go. Banish one of your characters with Reckless to banish chosen character with less strength than that character. All right. You got further than I did.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was right.
Good job,
yeah, at
man.
first I thought it was their willpower, but no, that makes more sense.
Good job. That's a great job. Yeah, so, I wonder how many folks actually know what that card does off the top of their head. So it's actually impressive to be able to pull it up on the spot like that. So well done, sir. Well done. So.
Yeah, had I not played it in my sealed draft, I probably would. I would be guessing way harder.
You would have bombed it, right? So.
Yeah, I would have dive bombed it.
Got a question in chat from Katie. What is the next event that I'm traveling for? I don't know. So I have no clue. I'm waiting for Worlds, and nobody knows when that is. And I will either travel there, hopefully as an attendee. Actually, I want to travel there as staff first. I would like to work that event. So if you guys are hearing me, whoever gets it, I hope it's PPG, then I would love to work that event along with every other judge who's worked these DLCs. If not, I will attempt to come there as an attendee for side events or whatever. But I am not going to miss out on the celebration, one way or the other. So I don't know when that's going to be. I can only speculate. Anybody who tells you they know when it's going to be is speculating until we get something official from Ravensburger or PPG or whoever's going to put it on. So, yeah. So hopefully that'll answer your question, Katie.
And also, Katie, keep in mind there's also fan ran events going on up until the Worlds tournament as well. Like, wasn't there one yesterday, like a big 13K prize event? Like they had I don't know the exact player count, but they had a lot of players.
That reminds me, I have to give a shout out to somebody on this, and that's to a young lady named Cassie, who plays at one of the stores in our area here, who made day 2 of the event and made it all the way up until the final round and was in a position for the payout, and Mr. Zach Bivens took her down. So, yep.
Is that the same Cassie that's staffed with us before?
No. different Cassie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, job well done, Cass. That's you represented well, and proud of you. So that sounded condescending. I'm very, very proud of you. So that's no light feat. So and you lost to a heck of a player, arguably one of the top 4 players in Lorcana. So
yeah, Bivens is a legend in this game. He's a very, very good player. So congrats on that.
I'll tell you what, one of the kindest guys too, man. He's such a nice guy. Several of them are. The top players are. Ed's nice, Zan's nice, Zach's nice. I speak to those because I've met them. I haven't really met the others, but I can speak to them. So.
Yeah, Ed's actually a local player of mine, so I see him all the time. He comes in with all kinds of weird kooky builds sometimes, just testing stuff out. And
that's great.
Things that you would probably never see him play in a big event, but it's always fun. It's always fun to see what kind of combinations he comes up with.
I met him in Toronto, and that's a story I'm going to save for if I ever get him on the podcast, because the interaction and the cracks he made to this day still have me laughing. Well, Russell, I want to thank you for joining me. Come to my hour time limit. We did a good job. We filled it, right? We got it. So I appreciate it. You're always welcome back.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Hey, anytime, man. You're always welcome back here on future episodes. I'm going to do a mix of local and national people, and I have not that you were a special guest, but I'm going to say this for anybody listening. I have a very special guest next week. Of all the episodes I ever do, I would love for folks to tune into next week, because it's if it doesn't tear at your heart, then you don't have a heart. That's all I can say. I'm not going to say who it is. I'll announce it a little bit later in the week, but just keep us on your radar, folks. Next week, same time, same bat channel. We'll be back here and have a very special episode for you. The videos will be on YouTube soon. Actually, episode 1 and that pilot episode, which I recommend you don't watch because I couldn't get the sound right for my partner for the first 15 minutes, but it's there if you want to see how far we've come. But Lorcanarama on YouTube, I'll put a link on this Twitch channel to point back to it. So episode 1 is up, and I will put this, as soon as we're done here, I'll upload this video for those who missed it. So for those of you who joined us, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate the chat, and I will see you all next week.